Hi, I'm Alan Smith. If you enjoy having the beauty of fresh flowers in your home, but when it comes to creating floral displays you feel like you're all thumbs, then today's show is for you, because we're going to explore some creative ways of bringing the beauty of the garden indoors in the way of flower arrangements. We'll start with the basics, color and plant choices, materials you'll need, and then we'll take a look at some classic flowers you can grow in your garden to use fresh and dried in flower arranging. And I'll even show you some tips on making arrangements for special events and holidays. We'll get started with an expert flower arranger right after this, so stay tuned. Welcome back. I'm here with Susanna Gamble in Carmel Valley, California. She's one of my favorite flower arrangers. She's bringing the bounty of the garden inside by doing a gorgeous flower arrangement. Susanna, how long have you been arranging flowers?
I've been arranging flowers all my life, but we've been doing the flower farm for 18 years.
Really? Has it been that long?
It's a long time.
Gosh, it's a gorgeous place.
Thank you.
And that really leads your designs, doesn't it? The farm and what's blooming at any given time.
Right. We specialize in garden roses. I got addicted somewhere along the way to garden roses. They're so wonderful.
What kind of arrangement are you creating today?
Well, it's for a party tonight, and it's a bountiful harvest.
Wonderful theme.
Some of the fruits that we have here, these are grapes, Zinfandel grapes. These are blackberries. We have a few pears left, and some apples.
What about some of the flowers?
Well, it seems like most women want this just joey.
These are just spectacular. Look at the size of them. So what do we need to do to get started?
For a large arrangement like this, you have to have the oasis higher than the container. Otherwise, everything sticks up like this. We want to get that nice natural from the garden look.
Right, graceful flow. I think that's the look everyone wants.
And so, since we're going to be using heavy apples and things, I've secured this with some of this bowl tape.
Now, do you use any rules of thumb in creating these for a dinner party, like keeping it low so people aren't hidden behind all the foliage?
Right, I don't have my measuring tape here, but you shouldn't have it any higher than 12 to 14 inches so people can see over the top.
And you're going out with it, making it a long rectangle to follow the shape of the table.
That's right.
From time to time, we'll check back in with Susanna and see how that arrangement's coming along. But for now, I thought it'd be fun to step out into the garden and harvest some of its bounty. You know, as summer shifts into fall, we call this period of time Indian summer, and to me, there's no better symbol of it than the sunflower. These North American natives just radiate warmth, and they're a welcome greeting along roadsides throughout a large part of the United States. Now, don't get me wrong, these great big ones aren't wild. They've been improved. They've been made larger and showier, mainly for the production of seed. Just look at some of the variations you can find in sunflowers. I think these flowers look best when grouped together and used in a simple arrangement like this. They're so strong and bold, they really don't need support from anything else. One reason I like sunflowers is they can make very effective dried flowers. These were dried by simply hanging fresh ones upside down in the garage. I thought they'd be nice combined with other things to make a handsome door arrangement. As a base, I'm just using some plumes of wild grasses, and I'm layering the bundles of sunflowers on them. Next, I add the seed heads of some purple coneflower, a little crabapple, and some dried blackberry lily, but many things will work. Now I just bind the ends with pipe cleaners, cut the stems to make them even, and tie it off with a raffia bow. Now after the fall season has passed, I can hang this in a tree for the birds to enjoy. They'll love all the berries and seeds. Now this is a flower you can utilize in 3 ways: fresh in summer, dried in the autumn, and as a source for food for wildlife in the winter. The change of seasons always makes me more aware of the natural beauty around me, particularly when I see things like the sumac. You can find this Native American shrub growing all the way from Canada to Florida. Because of its beautiful seed pods and spectacular foliage in the fall, this plant and other members of its family can be found in many landscapes. Sumac is actually a close cousin to poison ivy and poison oak. But this variety, called smooth sumac, is actually harmless. In fact, it's even edible. These tiny velvet-covered seeds are loaded with ascorbic acid or vitamin C. They have a sour taste, which is one of the reasons this plant was called the vinegar tree. Native Americans used them in cooking when a sharp, acidic flavor was needed. A tart-tasting tea that's pink in color can be made from them that's delicious when it's sweetened with a little honey. I think these seed heads are very interesting and useful in dried autumn arrangements. Their color is a deep, rich burgundy that can add strength to any composition. What's also nice about them is that they'll last for years without fading. I cut these just yesterday, and they'll remain just as you see them now. Up next, I'll show you how to dry hydrangea blossoms and other plants, and a little later, some ideas for creating some holiday centerpieces. Welcome back. I'm Alan Smith, and I'm here with Susanna Gamble in Carmel Valley, where she's putting together a beautiful harvest arrangement. Now, this Lazy Susan that you have this arrangement sitting on, I can see is very handy. And of course, the little stool, it allows you to work on the arrangement with these long, elegant wisps.
Right, and too, it allows me to sit down and view it like I am a guest at the dinner table, talking to the person across.
Yes, you don't want it to crowd the view. Now these flowers, I mean, I just can't believe it. Your husband, Carl, grows all of these roses.
He does.
Boy, aren't you lucky?
I have the best life that anyone could have.
Well, he does a magnificent job. I just can't get over the size of those roses. Now, from the largest rose, you move to an intermediate size and then eventually a smaller rose.
That's right, just like the bush grows them. The little buds are up higher than the full-blown, and then the ones that are, well, would last about 3 or 4 days in the vase are next, and then your big full-blown are about ready to fall.
Lower, right, and just following nature, following the garden. So now you're adding how many of these intermediate-sized roses?
5, 7.
5, 7, yeah. Well, it's just looking great, Susanna. We'll check back with Susanna in just a few minutes. But for now, I'd like to show you how to make a beautiful everlasting arrangement using dried flowers. It's interesting how certain flowers evoke a sense of nostalgia. Roses, hollyhocks, and hydrangeas, to name a few. There's no question these are beautiful in the garden, but if cared for properly, you can also use them inside. Let me give you an example. This variety of hydrangea is called PG. It's one of my favorites. And during the summer, the blooms get so large, they actually weight the plant down. So I feel like I'm doing it a favor by removing them. There are 2 methods you can follow to preserve these blooms, and both involve drying. The first is rather simple. All you do is remove the leaves like this along the stem and bundle 5 or 6 of them together and hang them in a cool, dry place. The other actually involves water, and that may sound odd, but let me show you what I mean. Just prepare a solution of 2 parts water and 1 part glycerin. You can find this at your local pharmacy. Now, the way this works is the water and the glycerin are drawn through the stem of the plant, and the water evaporates through the petals, leaving the glycerin. This makes the bloom more soft and supple to touch, and it also helps preserve the color and the shape of the bloom longer. To help with the uptake of the solution, I cut the stems at a right angle before sliding them into the vase. It's important to remember that the best time to cut hydrangeas is when the petals are showing a slight green color. These processes of preserving are a great way to enjoy hydrangeas through the fall and winter. You can preserve other flowers with glycerin too, like roses, one of my favorite flowers to use in arranging. An even simpler way to dry roses is to hang them upside down. There are even state-of-the-art freeze-drying processes that companies like Aromatique, the nation's leading producer of decorative fragrances, uses. But without getting too fancy, there's some simple ways to extend the life of any cut flower arrangement. Professionals in the cut flower industry have perfected methods for keeping fresh flowers around longer. And some of these techniques we can use at home by following just a few basic principles. But it all starts when you cut them in the garden. The best time of day to cut flowers is in the early morning when the plants are still full of water. And always cut them at an angle with the longest stem possible and put them immediately into water before bringing them inside. Now, whether you grow your own cut flowers or buy them from a florist, the methods you use to keep them fresh longer in the home are basically the same. Begin by preparing a solution of lukewarm water to the same amount of lemon lime soda and a couple of teaspoons of bleach. Even after a flower has been cut, it still needs to be fed. You see, the sugar in the lemon lime soda provides nutrient to the flower, and the citric acid in the solution allows the nutrient to be taken up more efficiently, and the bleach keeps the water clean. Now, this little method really works. A couple of years ago, I did an experiment. I put one bouquet of roses in this solution and the other in plain water. Those put in the solution stayed beautiful 4 to 5 days longer. Now, you can get packets of food like this for fresh cut flowers from your florist, and it basically does the same thing. Before you slip the flowers into solution, recut the stems underwater at a slight angle. This is particularly helpful for roses. I've also stripped the leaves so none touch the water. All it takes is a few simple techniques to make your flowers last longer. As you can see, roses can add so much to a flower arrangement. But you know, I find that beginning gardeners can get frustrated because they're not aware of all the different varieties of roses that are out there. What makes an arrangement like this so beautiful is that there's so much variety in it. Of course, Susanna has Carl to help grow all of these different roses. When you buy roses at the florist, they're typically a long-stemmed hybrid tea, and they're grown specifically for the florist trade. Hybrid tea roses for the home gardener are generally considered the fussiest of all to grow. They require pruning and spraying for black spot, powdery mildew, and other pests. But the reason why these roses are so popular is that they repeat bloom, and the blooms are large and showy. I have to admit they're beautiful, but when I choose a rose for my garden, ease of care has to be the top consideration. That's why I'm so fond of these old-fashioned roses. They hardly require any maintenance. Some of my favorites are Russell's Cottage, Champney's Pink Cluster, and Lamarck. Some of them only flower once, and others continue to produce flowers through the summer. But when they all bloom together in the spring, it's quite a show to see. Of course, we've only scratched the surface of all the different varieties and types of roses that are out there. But if you'd like more information on roses, just check out my website. That's pallensmith.com. Now, coming up next, we'll take a look at some easy holiday arrangements, and we'll also check back in with Susanna and see how she's progressing with this beautiful fall arrangement. So stay tuned. Hi, I'm Alan Smith. My home just wouldn't be the same if I didn't have an opportunity to bring the garden indoors. One of my favorite ways to do this is through floral arrangements. Of course, every arrangement doesn't have to be made of flowers. Around Thanksgiving, I create interesting arrangements using colorful leaves. Doesn't get much simpler than that. And sugar glazed fruit has been known to brighten up my dinner table. You can get the step-by-step instructions on how to create this arrangement on my website, pallensmith.com. Here's an interesting arrangement that can go from Halloween well into autumn. Nothing says fall like pumpkins. You know, they're just big, clumsy winter squash. And in the past, we used them for a lot of different things. But these days, we basically use them for holiday pies and jack-o'-lanterns. But I like to use these traditional pumpkins in a very non-traditional way, by using a pumpkin as a container for a fall arrangement or Thanksgiving centerpiece. All you have to do to get started is to cut a section out of the pumpkin where the arrangement will go. Remove the seed and drop in a piece of well-soaked floral foam, you know, the kind you use for fresh flowers. Now, I'm only using this type that you soak in water because I'm using fresh materials in this arrangement, along with dried. But if you're using exclusively dried materials, you can just use ordinary styrofoam. Now let's get started. I like to use things like dried flowers, the seed heads of grasses, seed pods, and fruit, and throw in a few fresh flowers if you have them around. Just use your imagination and look at the results. Now the key here is to keep the arrangement low, particularly if you're going to use this as a table centerpiece. As you can see, there are a lot more uses for pumpkins than holiday pies and jack-o'-lanterns. There's so much you can do for the winter holidays, but I thought I'd share just one interesting project that makes a great centerpiece. If you're decorating for the holidays and you want to include a classic look, all you have to do is go to the grocery store or the farmer's market and pick up some apples. Apples are one of the most symbolic fruits, and they've been used for thousands of years in festive decorating. I'm creating a simple, conical apple topiary for a centerpiece. I'm using 3 types of apples and just a few other materials. I'm starting with a large conical piece of styrofoam. You can pick these up at any hobby store. I'm simply covering it with these small, flat lady apples. Now this is an antique variety that's considered to be ancient. I like their size and they'll last for a long time. I'm applying them to the form with these little floral picks, and I've used some vegetable oil to give them a nice shine. In between the lady apples, I'm attaching clusters of crab apples from my garden with standard floral greening pins. And to further fill in the spaces, I'm using some small-leafed greenery. With the cone covered, I'll just place it in the center of a tray, or you could use a large platter. And I've elevated the apple tree about 3 to 4 inches with a clay saucer. To finish up, I'm adding some mixed greenery to the base, along with a few more of these shiny red delicious apples. This will last up to 2 weeks, particularly if you can keep it in a cool room. And I've learned over the years that it always pays to pick up a few extra apples to keep in the refrigerator for replacements. Throughout the year, I'm constantly experimenting with different flowers, fruit, and containers in a variety of arrangements. And I thought it might be helpful, if not fun, to share a collage of these floral displays with you. We've all seen frogs, right? No, not that kind of frog, this kind. It's a simple form that helps hold flowers in place. Frogs can be just wire, like this chicken wire I use to hold up daffodils. Or they can be elaborate pieces of glass with holes designed to hold flowers upright in vases or bowls. Susanna's applying the finishing touches, and we'll see the final results right after this. Well, we've been tracking the progress of Susanna's beautiful fall arrangement, and now she's just about to finish it up. What's next, Susanna?
Well, I guess I need the container.
All right. Lift it up. Oh, it's just beautiful.
Get those grapes to hang over.
Okay, I'll hold them out. Look at that. I see how the fruit has completed the fall harvest theme. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Blackberries, apples.
Apples and grapes.
And of course the grapes, yes. Gorgeous, just gorgeous. Now you've used a single color family here as the theme, I see.
Yes, I wanted to keep it simple, so it wasn't distracting. You'd see the roses and the fruit.
Right. Oranges, terracottas, and some purples and a little pink, yeah. Marvelous, marvelous. Susanna, this is just magnificent. What I love so much about your style is that you use so much diversity from the garden. Thank you so much for sharing this with us.
My pleasure.
If you're allergic to pollen, take heart. There are plants that are considered to be low in pollen that you can grow in your garden. Here's some you may want to try. Passion flowers, miniature roses, and begonias. Then there are nasturtiums and herbs like parsley, thyme, and bay, and foliage plants like coleus, caladiums, and ivy. Today we've been taking a look at the best the garden has to offer by bringing it indoors into our homes in the form of beautiful flower arrangements. Hope you've seen that you don't have to be an expert to be a floral artist. Creating a simple flower arrangement from the plants you grow in your own garden is one of the most rewarding experiences for any gardener. Any of the information you've seen in today's show, plus a whole gallery of arrangements I've created over the years, can be found on my website. That's pallensmith.com. From the garden, I'm Alan Smith.
In this garden I dream of a bed of flowers. Bluebirds sing of the beauty all around us. And every time the sun comes out, I can't help but smile. Oh, no, I can't help but smile.